Hi, welcome to Senior Moments, Successful Aging. I'm Mary Beals-Luedtka, your host. I'm the NACOG Area Agency on Aging Director, and I can be reached toll-free at 877-521-3500. Senior Moments, Successful Aging is co-produced by the Division of Lifelong Learning at WWII College and NACOG Area Agency on Aging. Our co-producers are Connie Vargas from WWII College, and you can reach her at 928-717-7755, or Allie Bateman from NACOG Area Agency on Aging, and you can reach her once again at that toll-free number, 877-521-3500. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome back to our show Lucy Hanson. Lucy Hanson has been on the show before. Hi, Lucy.
Hello. Hello. Nice seeing you again.
Nice to see you again as well. It's such a pleasure to have you back. Last time you were on, we spent a lot of time talking about what happened to you during World War II. And you were born in the Netherlands, right?
I am.
Yes.
I was.
You were, yes. And how old were you when the Germans invaded?
I was 10 years old.
10 years old?
Yes.
So you remember well?
Oh, yeah. It lasted 5 years. And those are very interesting ages, you know, from 10 to 15.
Yeah. You're developing, becoming a woman, and then all these things are happening around you. So we spent a lot of time in the last show talking about the war. So this time I'd like to spend a little time asking you about what happened to you once the war was over.
Oh, we were so happy. We were so happy, you have no idea. We were liberated by the Canadians.
Oh.
See, the Americans went to Germany to liberate Germany, but the Canadians came up the coast and liberated Belgium and Holland. Yeah.
Was it just like you see on TV, like they came into your town and...
Oh, yeah, and you went downtown, and here came the Canadians with those big tanks, you know, and we tried to crawl up there and felt good, and they gave us, they were not supposed to give us any chocolate because our stomachs had shrunk so much. You know, we would get sick, so they gave us chewing gum.
Oh, chewing gum, but that was a treat. I'm
sure.
Yes. Oh, my gosh, what a day that was. And then what happened?
Well, I just happened to graduate from high school in 1945.
Okay.
And, well, you couldn't go to college. All the colleges were burned, or the books were burned, or, you know, life stood still.
Yeah.
You had to start from scratch, and there was nothing. So my mother said, why don't you just... take some typing lessons and shorthand lessons and become a secretary. So...
Yeah, oh boy.
So I did that and got an office job, but life was still very horrible, and we kept going on and on. I got one job, got another job, was not happy with what I was doing, but I was lucky that for my birthday, my very first birthday after the war, my dad gave me a mandolin to play.
Yes.
Mandolin. And I was so taken up with that because there was nothing else to do. You couldn't go to the movies, there was nothing. So I practiced very hard, and Hilversum, the town where I live, is the town where all the radio stations are, and later on the television stations. So I was invited to to come and help with an orchestra. I became a mandolin player, would you believe that? And I did that for a few years, even for the radio, because being in my hometown, you know, there were a lot of orchestras. So, got tired of that. I did both.
Yeah.
I was a secretary and I played the mandolin. Many of my friends were in the same situation. And what they did, you know, the Dutch are very adventurous. They went either to France or to England and work as an au pair in a family. And then you could practice your French or your English, because in Holland, high school is very, very strong. You have to take French, German, and English, and Dutch. and geography and history and math and, you know, all that. We work hard in high school.
Yeah.
So we knew French, German, and English. So my friends went to England. And I thought, gosh, that's an idea. I can do that too. So one evening during dinner, I said to my mother, I'm going to England. And she said, good for you, she said, go and see the world.
Good for your mother, yeah.
Oh, my mother was fantastic. So one of my friends already in England had an address from a very nice family. And I wrote her a letter, and she wrote me back, and I could start the 1st of November. And, well, I went to England for a year. I stayed in that family for a whole year. And, you know, you did little help around the house, picked the kids up from school and things like that. We were off sometimes weekends, so we took the train and went to London and saw the sights. And Thursday nights was my off night, and you went to the international club because there is a big university in Birmingham. I was in Birmingham. So, I met all kinds of students, and it was fun, but it was just for 1 year. Then, during one of the trips to London, my girlfriend and I were sitting having breakfast, and a very nice, tall, good-looking man came up to us and said, I'm so impressed with you girls. You are talking Dutch together, but when the waiters come, you flip over in English. And he said, I have a travel agency in Barcelona, Spain, and we expect a lot of tourism coming after the war. This was 10 years after the war, because this was 55, 56 that I was in England. So he gave us the card. And this was the end of my stay in England. I went home. Being home again, what am I going to do? So I called my friend and I said, how about going to Spain? And we wrote a little note, and we went to Spain. And I lived in Spain for 4 years and learned Spanish at the same time.
I guess, is it easier since you already knew so many languages to learn another?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, the more languages you know, the easier it gets.
Wow. I'm fascinated by that. You know, we don't have that here in America.
And it would be so good because you know what? You learn so much when you are in a different culture, a different country. Your brain opens up.
Yeah.
And you see that the whole country is not like your little country. And I noticed, I shouldn't say this, but I noticed this so much in America.
Yeah.
Because American people think that the whole world is like America.
Yeah. And it's not, is it?
No. It's very good, but it's different. And, you know, I'm sorry that I have to say this, but, and many times I tell myself, if I was a billionaire, like, you know, I would say that every student, every graduate from high school should go to a different country for 2 semesters and live with the family. Don't be in a hotel. You don't learn anything in a hotel when you are in France or England. You have to live with the family. And it would open the minds of lots and lots of students.
And yeah, I'm sure it would. But in Barcelona, I have an uncle that used to live in Barcelona. It was one of his favorite places in the world.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes.
I would have stayed, but I got a little, you know, after 4 years. And my sister had immigrated to the United States. And I thought, am I going to stay forever in Barcelona, Spain? Nah, I will try something different again. So I went home. This is, God, I can't remember. But this is 1960,
I was going to say about in the 60s.
1960. I was in Barcelona 57, almost 71. So I came home again, worked, because, you know, you have to work. And Holland was a lot better then. This is about, 15 years after the war. Things became normal. Well, they were normal again. But there were so many people who had immigrated because there was nothing in Holland. After the war, there was not. The factories were empty. We had no trains. We had no buses. Nobody had a car. We hadn't had that in 5 years. I still had a bike, but didn't have rubber tires. I just rode my bike on, you know. So people looked for different opportunities. Thousands of Dutch people came to Canada, Australia, South Africa. They wanted a new world. Now, to go to Canada or Australia was easy. You just go to the embassy and you put your name on a list, and then they wanted all this information. Coming to the United States was very difficult. So I went to a certain agency, and they helped you, and you got a stack of papers like that. And you fill those out. In those days, no computers, you know, you have to write everything down. So it took a long time. My sister had immigrated in 1958 with her husband. And she was very lucky that she could come to America because she had written down any country. But there was a quota in those days. So many thousand people could come to the United States in January and so many thousand in August. Well, they were part of the last group. So she was so happy. And they wrote us letters. And one day, while I was in Holland, she wrote, and she wrote down, "We have bought a house." Well, you know, 4 years in America, you can buy a house.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So everybody was just, and that's what I thought by myself, I'm going. So then is when I started all my paperwork. And like I said, it was not easy to come to America. In those days, they had a long questionnaire. Nobody in your family could have been a member of the Communist or the Nazi Party. Nobody in your family. You had to have very good, you had a medical...
Be in good health?
Yeah, you had to be in very good health.
Okay.
And there is so much going on in my head. So one of the very things was, I had lived in Barcelona and I had lived in Birmingham. I had to write to their police departments that I had never been in trouble in those countries.
Wow.
Well, doing this all by mail
Takes a while.
took a long time.
Yeah.
So you had to go to the doctor and get a clean bill of health. And I was called up to come for an interview in Rotterdam. And he goes through all my papers, and he said, "Everything looks fine." He said, "You even got a job." My sister had got me a job in the office where she worked. And he said, "Well, but you cannot live on $250 a month." And I said, "Well, but I'm going to live with my sister and my brother-in-law." Well, he said, "Do you have proof of that?" And I said, "Well, I have letters, but they are in Dutch. Do you read Dutch?" No, he didn't read. This was an American, of course. You know. More papers that I had to send to America. How much they made, how much the house payment was, how much money they had in the savings and the checking account. And I thought, my goodness, this is getting to it. But I didn't give up, you know. So I sent those papers again. My sisters, after a month, I got them finally back again. And finally, I could go to the United States. So I had to come for another interview. Because I had to show that I'm going to live with my brother and sister-in-law. Or sister-brother-in-law. Golly. Well, looks through the papers again. It looks already fine. Please stand up and raise your hand. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I have to do now?
Yeah.
So, thank goodness I spoke English, but he must say it 1,000 times a month, you know. So he said it so fast. So I was not intimidated. I said, would you please explain to me what I just put my hand up for? And he said, you promise. Now listen to this. You promise that you will never become a burden to the people of the United States, or you will be sent back.
Wow.
Now, that puts the fear of God in you, you know.
Yes.
I thought, I better be a good girl when I'm there.
I promise.
So finally,
wow.
I could go. And I came in March of 1963, and I decided, you know, many people started flying already to the United States in the early 60s, and I thought, no, I'll go by boat. Maybe I will never get on a big ship like that again.
Right.
So I got on the Rhine-Dam, Holland-America line, and traveled with a friend who went to visit my sister's friend in America. So she didn't speak English, so she asked me if we could travel together, so that was fun. So it took what? We had a big storm. Oh, we had this is March, you know, in the north, and the Atlantic goes like that. The ship would go like that, and then I would go down again.
Oh, that would scare me to death.
This is before equalizers, you know. Yeah. But I loved it. Came to New York, got on the train to Chicago, and it was snowing like mad. And my friend had a terrible cough, and the conductor came through to check our tickets, and he was a little concerned, and I was too, and I said, we have to be in Chicago at 9 o'clock because we have to get the train to Los Angeles. We'll see what happens, he said, but it got later and later, and we were late in Chicago, but the train to Los Angeles was waiting for us.
Nice.
I always have so much luck in my life,
Yes.
you know. But then when we were on the train for, I think, let me see, it was, I've forgotten how many hours, but it was many hours.
I'm sure it was a long ride.
And we arrived in Los Angeles, and it was raining.
So you weren't lucky with the weather.
It was raining in Los Angeles. We expected sunshine, you know, and blue sky. Well, anyway, it all worked out. My sister and brother were there, so that's how I came to America.
What did you think of America? I mean, you know, what was it like when you got settled in LA?
Gosh, everything was so big.
Yeah.
You know, my sister, she came in a car, I think it was a 56 Pontiac or something, light green. I had never seen a light green car in my life. In Holland, they were white or black, you know.
Yeah.
And there were not that many cars, not that big. But if you see one of those 50s cars now.
They're big.
Oh, they were so big. So I was very impressed. Well, I was here a week, and I went to work. 1st of April, I started to type credit reports. Oh, gosh.
That was fun, huh? Yeah, I can tell you loved that.
But I had to have a job.
You had a job, yeah.
And I was lucky that the office where my sister worked could use somebody else. Mm-hmm. So that's how I started my life in America, typing credit reports, which is old-fashioned now.
Yes, it is. It is. How long did you have to do that?
I didn't do it very well.
Because you're adventurous and you moved on, didn't you?
I you know, my life went so fast, and it still goes very fast.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
We went out occasionally. And one time we went, in August, we went to a Hawaiian luau in Los Angeles. Excuse me. And it was a dance, and I was asked to dance with a gentleman. And he said, "What are you doing here in America?" I said, "I'm typing credit reports." And he said, "Why don't you come and work for me?" And I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, I sell real estate in Hilo, Hawaii." I said, "Oh, my goodness." He said, "I will bring you the books, and you take the exam, and then we will see what happens." Well, a week later, he came to the door, and he brought me a stack of books. And I started reading those books, and that was so difficult. I didn't know what a mortgage was. I didn't know what a lien was, or, you know, I didn't know anything about real estate. So I really wanted to study. So I told my sister, "Would you mind if I quit my job and I take care of your house? And then I can study at the same time." You know, because I paid her room and board. So I had saved money, because $250 to me was a lot of money. And what I did, the first thing I did when I came, about 6 weeks later, I couldn't go anywhere because I didn't have a car. I didn't even know how to drive when I came. So my brother-in-law taught me how to drive in his little pickup. And I got the little book out, and I studied all the rules. And I failed the first time, because I took it was a big car, you know, and I'm not used to big cars. I went around the corner a little too tight. Failed. A week later, I could do it again, and I got my driver's license. Then I needed a car. Nobody believes that now when I tell them. But I had been in this, I came the end of March, so I worked April and May. The 2nd of June, I bought a car for $140.
I love it.
A 1953 Ford, light green, with a white top.
I love it. I love it. And so life in America, right?
I got my car, and I could go places. Oh, this was so much fun.
And you got your wings.
And I was studying. I really was studying. Then in January, I took the bus to Los Angeles. I didn't dare to drive yet. So I took the bus to Los Angeles, and I had to take my real estate exam. This is January, so I had been here only since April, and I failed. I knew I would fail because I was not used to the questions they would ask. Took it again in February. Got my real estate license.
You hadn't even been in America a year.
No.
Wow.
Anything can be done in America if you want to.
If you work hard enough and you study hard enough. You know, one of the things that you do now is you talk to children about your experience, you know, and so when you do that, what's your main message to them?
Stay away from the computer. No, this is honestly.
Read.
Read and be with people and
I love that.
Do things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I see kids do nowadays, they don't even play anymore.
Yeah. Our moms had it right when they scoot us out of the house and we'd be out all day.
Yeah.
Go outside.
Yeah.
Go outside. Yeah.
Go out and play. And that's where you learn a lot, because you are involved with people.
Yeah.
And when you are not involved with people anymore, you become a zombie.
Yeah, the zombie apocalypse they talk about, right? So what brought you to Prescott?
Oh, that's another story. I
That's
could
another
go
story.
on for hours.
We'll have to come. We'll have to have you back again and talk about that. But you also talk to the children about World War II, don't you?
Oh yes. Oh yes, and children nowadays. What I really emphasize is, it's not only shooting and bombing and fighting. It's the people who live in the country. Like if we think now about Syria.
Yeah.
I always look at the women. They live, they have no houses anymore. What do they do with their children?
Yeah.
How does she feed her children? How does she keep them warm?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's another side of war. War is not only fighting, it is the people who live in those countries.
Yeah.
And that's what I have done for 5 years. That you make the best of everything, that you do not sit down and cry, that you just keep going.
Pull yourself up and do the best you can with what you have. You know, and I can't, you know, and that's another thing that fascinates me about you. You know, you talk about the luck that you've had in your life, and yet you lived under Hitler's regime for 5 years. And that fascinates me.
You learn a lot.
Yeah.
I never throw anything away.
I bet you don't.
Because I always think it can come in handy someday. And when I go to a restaurant and I see these people going with those big plates full, and they don't eat everything, oh, that hurts.
I bet it does. Because you had to go hungry, didn't you?
Yes, so I was very hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, if you couldn't even have a chocolate bar because your stomach was so shrunk.
We didn't know what a chocolate bar was.
Yeah, I can't, you know, I mean, that's something that the kids today don't understand, especially in America.
No.
Because we're spoiled.
Yeah, you have everything. My little sister is 7 years younger. And after the war, she got a banana and she didn't want to eat it because she didn't know what it was.
Lucy, we got to have you back again. Because then we got to talk about how you got to Prescott.
Oh, yeah, well, I lived in California for 29 years.
For 29 years and before you came.
Yeah.
So, you know, but, you know, your stories are priceless. You are priceless. It's been a joy to talk to you again, and we'll have you back.
Good.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us today on Senior Moment, Successful Aging, which she is a perfect example of. I'm Mary Beals-Luedtka. Until next time.